Hi girls, good afternoon. For today's class, we're gonna be talking about the listening strategies because as you may remember, this was a topic of this week. So I would like to start by mentioning some important aspects of the listening strategies. You know that even in even in English and in Spanish, there are a lot of things that we have to perfectionate or that we have to be careful about when we are listening to a conversation. But there is not only a main point of discussion when we are listening to conversation. There are many type of listenings, and I would like to start by defining each one of them. So there are two types of listening. The active listening is when you, for example, are listening to a radio or a podcast and you have to find specific information, and so you have to identify or retain specific details. For example, every time that we are presenting a listening part of an exam, we are using this active listening strategy because we are looking for specific information. There is also another type of listening that is the passive listening, and it is when you are maybe listening to a conversation or a program and you are not really seeking to identify or retain specific information. You are just kind of hearing, not listening. So remember that hearing is just listening to the sounds without paying attention, and listening is listen to and comprehend what the message that is being passed from someone to another or from the radio or from conversations. So every time that we are doing an exam, the test takers generally take some notes to help them remember the important information in a dialogue or a lecture. But it is very important to enhance the active listening skills so we can in this way reduce this taking notes. So um, there are two different types of listening when we are talking about something academic, the conversations and the lectures. The conversations are the dialogues between that are developed between two people or more, and the lectures are the ones who are a little bit more larger and they are conducted by a narrator. Every time that we are listening to either one or another, there are three basic clues that we have to identify. The first one is who is speaking. The number two is if there are more than one speaker, or what is the speaker relationship in the audio or in the lecture. And the number three is what is the issue or the problem that is being addressed in the audio. And here I have 9 listening strategies for you. The first one, it is about prediction. It is what you could predict about the passage. The second one, it is background knowledge. It is related to what do I already know about this topic, or I don't know if I heard, I don't know, a topic about education. What would it be my previous knowledge about that education? Then number three is activate topic vocabulary. It means which words or which phrases do I already know in this subject. And number four, sounding out. That it is helpful to know what will the word sounds like in English or even in another language. Then number five, we had cognates, and it is necessary to listen for words that sound like English words in order to identify them in case that we are not sure about its meaning. Then in number six, we have the resemblance, that is the listening for words that sound like another words that you already know to relate them and get into the correct meaning. Then we have number seven, intonation. We have to be very careful with intonation, and we have to be very aware to identify that the rising and falling intonations of English assess a focus on the information that is given. So every time that a speaker is speaking about something and they want to make it some important resemblance, they tend to use this kind of differences between a falling and rising intonation. That's why. Then number 8 will be the grammar. It is sometimes useful for us to use grammar to assess the importance of individual words. And then last but not least, it is the instruction. It is a list for the gist of the passage, but not every single word. What do I mean by a gist? A gist will be, for example, a list of keywords. Not every single word. Maybe I can take some notes every time that I don't really understand a long conversation would be helpful for me to make a list of clue words that are going to help me to get to the straight point to the conversation or to the dialogue or to the lecture. Here it is, some of the most important topics of discussions and listening topics. The main idea. Those are going to be questions that basically are going to help us to identify the main idea between two speaker or in a lecture by only one speaker. Then we have catching details. It is very important to be aware of all the details or all the ideas that are not explicit but are implicit in the conversation. Then connecting content will be very helpful for us to demonstrate that we can determine the connection between the pieces of information that are going to be given to us in the discussion of the lecture of the dialogue and the previous knowledge that I have about what I'm listening to. It can be helpful in case that I'm having problems to understand the meaning of certain conversation. Then here we have number 4. It's about making implications. It is just about asking questions to infer the context for a particular dialogue based on certain given circumstances expressed during the conversation. There it is. So I think you're going to be able to watch this video at the YouTube platform. And before we go, I'm going to make a switch to Spanish to explain a little bit of information about week 11 and 12. Como saben, va a venir la Semana Santa y vamos a estar trabajando una semana solamente 3 días. Por lo que voy a hacer, voy a adelantar un poco la entrega de nuestro proyecto final. Como saben, estamos por terminar ya nuestro cuatrimestre y me gustaría que tuvieran el tiempo de hacerlo. Así que para esta semana voy a marcar la semana de trabajo normal, nuestra semana 11 y nuestra semana 12 la estaré incluyendo con la misma fecha para que en semana 11 ustedes suban el trabajo y al mismo tiempo que tengamos la semana 12 puedan realizar sus actividades de esta semana. Entonces quedaría de la siguiente manera. Semana 11 y 12 van a estar juntas, van a estar, como quien dice, disponibles a partir de el día 29 hasta el día 4 de abril. Serían semana 11 y 12. Pero recuerden que la semana 12, la 11 sería de trabajo todavía y la 12 se las dejaría para que ahí suban su ensayo. Lo que pasa es que esta semana voy a estarles pidiendo un ensayo como parte de nuestro proyecto final. Voy a tomar en consideración que hagan un ensayo de 500 palabras en el cual traten cualquiera de los diferentes temas que hemos visto esta semana. Les voy a dejar este cuatrimestre, les voy a dejar la libertad total de que ustedes elijan su tema y solo les voy a pedir que se apeguen al formato APA. Si alguien tiene algún tema en específico, siéntase totalmente libre de hacerlo, pero lo que yo quiero es que esté relacionado a los temas que hemos estado tratando durante nuestro trabajo en este cuatrimestre. Espero que tengan oportunidad de ver el video, chicas, Y en caso de que tengan alguna duda, saben que me sigo poniendo a sus órdenes por medio de nuestro grupo de WhatsApp. Muchas gracias.